What I've got to say, take no offense. YouTube, you're my new friends and family, so whatever I've said further on in this vlog, please don't take offense because I'm just getting out my pain. Honestly, what I'm about to share, YouTube, you're my new friends, and we community is my new fam, so what I have to say, please don't take offense. I seriously am just trying to get this out of my system to avoid more anxiety and depression since I'm dry and no weed at all. I would say happy holidays, but I'm just letting you know that it's not that great of a holiday for me this season. I just can't wait for this shit to be over. I never have money for Christmas. Santa Claus never fucking existed for me, neither did family nor friends. So, as far as I'm concerned, let's get this shitty vlog done with, because I just want to rant and get it off my mind. It's just something I can't keep it anymore. These are my reasons for hating Christmas so fucking much. I'm broke. It's been like this for over a decade. No family, no friends, always living alone, feeling alone every holiday, Christmas season. Dry as fuck, but these are my disabled stoner confessions. I'm not perfect either. As I think back on the moments, I didn't hate Christmas in the beginning. It's only up till now that I really can't stand it. Moving from California, living in Colorado for the past 18 years, I have not got any good memories from it. Because I moved from California, my family was my sheltered prison, and here is the reason why. I left. Growing up, I was always a loner due to the Jehovah's Witnesses didn't want me to hang out and talk with worldly people. But living with my family, they were negative Jehovah's Witnesses, and rape and adultery was the norm. I've never really known a Christmas that didn't involve a lot of racial profiling on both sides of my family because they were Mexican on my mom's side and black on my father's side, so negative upbringing was the norm. My older sister told me they value and respect this tradition, which I do not, because it doesn't help anyone but themselves. What was my reason for leaving? What happened? Well, this is it. My father was a schizophrenic. My mother had major depression. My mother was married at 16 years old to my father at 19 due to she was Catholic, my father was a Jehovah's Witness. And it gets more complicated. Before I was born, my mother and my father were already at ends of their marriage, and my father admitted to my mother while I wasn't even born from the womb that he was adultering on my mother, and that adulterer was a part of our lives growing up, which I didn't understand was wrong, but I do know now that I will never work with anybody who wants to create adultery. My father took the adulterer's advice as much as this adulterer, Michelle Penn, literally kept drugging my father with his schizophrenia so much that my father was sent to assassinate my mother and me and my unborn brother right in front of me. And this is what I had to do as a 7-year-old child growing up. As my mother was crying, I woke up out of my dead sleep in the room next door to my parents' master bedroom, and I saw my mother putting her hand out telling me not to jump out in front of her, stay where I am. Leaning over to the left side, seeing my father point a World War II handgun that my grandfather served as a corporal in World War II, giving it to my father to protect his family, probably didn't realize he was giving a gun to a schizophrenic, which my grandfather really didn't do his job as a grandfather to father his own son better. To share, you may not believe me at all or not, but this is why my family disowned me. I refused to submit into their values, and this is what I did to use my abilities to protect my mom. First, I honored their Jehovah's Witness and prayed to their God to make my father stop and not pull the trigger while my mother was laying down helpless, pregnant. Next, when there was no result getting my father to stop and my mother was still scared that she was going to die right in front of me, this is the next thing I did to pray to myself. As I reached out my hand towards my mother, trying to focus on what I wanted to do to protect her, my father still did not decline from pulling the trigger. But this is what next happened, and as I was saying, I did pray to myself, and I did realize I had a personal power that I had no idea how to control to this day. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I swear to you, this is my childhood experience, I'm telling the truth. Marvel Comics and all of the sci-fi and the Twilight Zone shows my father exposed me to, it was my teacher that made me realize I had abilities to protect my mother. I wasn't going to sit there and watch her die. No, it looked like it. I wasn't frozen with fear. My projections were clear, but I had a decision to choose between my parents. I wasn't going to kill my father, and I didn't want him to kill my mother, so the steps I had to take were really cold in my decision, but it was an ability that I had to focus clearly to make sure we all came out of it unscathed. As I'm praying to myself, I asked time and space to protect my mother in her place, so that way any projectiles my father shot at her would go right through it and into the wall floor. Thinking at 7 years old, my unborn sibling was either the cause of it or was the focus of the bullet being shot at my mother, so I asked the universe this. I asked the universe to return my brother or sister's unborn soul from whence it came in order to do this cast correctly. I asked, like I said, time and space to protect my mother from the projectile my father was about to unleash before me. And there was, when the bullet flew 10 inches from the barrel, this happened. My father explained to me years later after this incident that he saw a purple vortex eat up the bullet 10 inches from the release of the barrel of the gun. As I was focused on my mother, I only saw her turn her face towards the wall away from my father, and then she told me years later she saw a purple vortex open up, and that's when the bullet released from her eye point of view into the floor bottom of the wall where the carpet is. So praying to myself, I realized I had a personal power that both my parents were instilled with fear, looking at me differently, estranged almost, and that's what scares me the most. Because after the gun was shot and my father knew what I possibly could do with my ability, he walked out and ran back to his adulterer, Michelle Penn, to tell her, I guess, that he failed assassinating my mother, my unborn brother, and probably me for her selfish benefit. The next day after the situation happened that night, at 7 years old, they acted like the Twilight Zone, like nothing happened, like it's Susie Homebaker, and my parents were trying to smile like nothing was a concern to be worried about. I believe that the Jehovah's Witnesses look down upon anybody that has power over their belief system, so my parents were trying to keep what I knew a secret from me and myself. Then after all that, my father still stayed with the adulterer while still married to my mother until the divorce, and I'm like, what the fuck, right? Fuck! This was so frustrating. I had the complete opposite of Uncle Ben and Peter Parker's story because they did not want me to learn my great power because they didn't want me to learn the responsibility. They just wanted me to forget. So in order to feel less estranged towards my blood family, I had to follow along in order to pretend I forget, yet I do know where I'm standing intellectually and independently. Though over the years my father asked for my abilities once again after he divorced my mother, and this is where I'm getting towards the good part. After my 7-year-old fiasco seeing my father shoot my mother in front of me, and he divorced my mother because of Michelle Penn as the adulterer, my dad was seeing 3 other black women on the side of the adulterer after my mother's divorce from him. I'll get into that a little bit here. What my father asked me to help him with was AQUANETTA, the mother of Ben Alonzo Underwood, the boy with echolocation, and this is how he got his echolocation ability, is from me, because of my father, and I've never been around growing up around my brother due to AQUANETTA and my father interfering with my life. Before Ben was even 3 years old, my father was telling me that he had a rare retinal cancerous disease called retinoblastoma. By that time, I barely remembered AQUANETTA because I only briefly saw her when I was under 12 years old, and my dad was recently divorced from my mother, but he was still seeing 3 other black women besides Michelle Penn on the side, which makes a total of 4. My father and I were walking down the hall of our home in Moreno Valley, California, and I whispered under my breath what I would do for my brother. My father assumed I was wishing my brother ill will, and he stopped me and looked at me with an evil face, saying, "What did you just say under your breath?" And this is how I explained to my father what I told him out of fear of my father's abuse. Under my breath, I wished for my brother to see this world with eyes unseen from normal view of an actual normal human, so I didn't want him to see the disgusting things that I'd had to see growing up. Yet again, after intimidation of my father and granting what he asked of me once again to do him a favor, I still got segregated, estranged from my brother Ben, never allowed to grow up around him because they were fearing that I would take his abilities away. After I had my daughter at 19, I tried to move on from the losses of what my family took advantage of me, including my father and his 4 mistresses that he kept on the side from each other. AQUANETTA claimed she knew about all the other 3, including herself as the 4th. But when it came down to Ben, this is what pissed me off more. My brother Ben was trying to look for me and trying to say thank you because he went on to Oprah, Ellen, Tyra, all the other talk shows because of his echolocation ability, hoping that I would see him on TV and contact him, but this is why I couldn't. I did mention I was broke at the beginning of my first vlog, and I'm still broke as now because I'm still learning how to budget and balance my life after all the tragedies that have befallen me, my family, and anyone else outside of my family that has exploited our abilities and our last name. I recently saw Oprah do a eulogy on my brother, and AQUANETTA is still selling her book after exploiting his ability and exploiting my family's last name for her fucking financial benefit by robbing the people, lying to Oprah that her God blessed my brother with this echolocation when it was really me, and she kept me out of his life, just like my father and her planned. I love watching Oprah give good things to good people, but AQUANETTA did not deserve shit after what she did exploiting my family and after my brother's death to this day now. I'd rather be the one on Oprah explaining the real side of the story that AQUANETTA refused to tell the public honestly while lying to Oprah live. Miss Oprah Winfrey, if you do hear me, I would like to tell my story, please. AQUANETTA exploited the public media, exploited my brother's ability, exploited my father and me, and to this day after my brother's death, the bitch is still getting money from a book that she promised to give me a copy of to remember my brother by, and I've yet to fucking see that book. AQUANETTA and any leftover of my surviving family that my parents are dead now are done with me. They don't even visit me or see me. That's why I'm always alone every holiday year. Oprah, the only thing I would ask of you is not to bring AQUANETTA on the show because I swear I will claw the bitch's eyes out after what she's done. I am not talking to her after everything I've seen she's done to me and my family. Oprah, if I do get a chance to meet you in person and tell you my story, I would really appreciate it if it is worth clearing up the record of what AQUANETTA has done to exploit the world, using my brother as a catalyst to exploit his abilities for her selfish financial gain. Oprah, thank you for listening to my upset, traumatic episodes. It's too much information, but I'm almost finished. Bear with me. That's it. That's all I wanted to rant for today. Thanks for bearing and listening with me. I appreciate the ear. Hey everyone, I want you to stay golden, light up your doobies, and stay blitzed and blaze on.